Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I've got some fun farmhouse style DIYs to share with you for Christmas. I think you're really going to enjoy. So if you want to know how to make them, stick around. I'll show you how. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Right, Maxwell? Okay, for this first one, I'm going to use a large ornament. This measures about 5 inches in diameter, and I'm just going to remove my caps, and I'm going to wipe them down with some rubbing alcohol because I am going to paint these. And then I just got a piece of styrofoam and some dowel sticks, and that's how I'm going to set them up so that I can paint them. That way they're lifted up off of the styrofoam, and you're not getting paint on the bottom part. Just stick it in there, put your little ornament on there, and then kind of space all yours apart pretty easily so that you can get in between them as you're spray painting them. So I'm putting mine like at a diagonal from each other. My tops, I'm just going to push them right down into the styrofoam. Next, I'm going to take them outside and I'm going to spray paint them with a hammered brown paint by Rust-Oleum. Okay, next I'm going to use some burnt umber and some burnt sienna paint, and I am wearing gloves for this because I am going to dip my hand into the paint and I'm just going to pat it onto my ornament. This will start giving it some texture, just kind of really pat it on there to give it a little bit of background color. We're just going to try to make these look like they're vintage and they're rusted. And this will give it a nice first coat so that the rest of the paint will stick to it pretty easily. And I got all that blended in. I'm coming in with a sponge brush and I'm going to put it on a little bit heavier. And I'm putting quite a bit of this on there, but you want to make sure that you cover your ornament completely. And this is going to give you your nice rusty color to start with, and then we're going to kind of blend it in with the brown and the black paint. Next, I'm coming in with the burnt umber and I'm going to start dabbing it on as well. Now, I'm not going to put quite as much of the brown as I did on the rusty color. Just kind of lightly dab it around there just to kind of get it blended in a little bit. Next, I'm going to take my hand again and I'm going to start patting it. This kind of makes it a little bit more blended and you don't have any paint standing up onto your ornament. It just kind of really blends it in. Next, to finish this out, we're going to take some black paint and we're going to start dabbing it. This is what's going to bring all this together. So really get quite a bit of the black on there, but blend it in with your sponge really well. And you can use your hand on it too. I'm like rubbing it at this point just to kind of smooth it out. This is what really makes it look good. And then I'm kind of using a combination of the black and the orange together just to kind of really get it blended in. And then you're just going to set that aside and let that dry real well. And I'm doing 3 of these because I think they really look good in a cluster of 3. Next, I cut some strips of craft foam. These are about a 1/2 inch wide, and I'm going to go all the way around the center of this ball. So just start at the very side of it and then go all the way around, trying to get it as straight as possible. And you want a strip that's long enough to where it just meets right into the middle in the back. You don't want to overlap it. And then just go ahead and cut your other 2 exactly the same length. Okay, next, so that these blend in with our ornament, we're going to take some burnt sienna and some black paint, and I'm going to paint my strips black first so that they are a dark black. And then I'm going to take my sponge and I'm going to sponge the burnt sienna on it so it does blend with our ornaments. And it doesn't have to be exact, just kind of get some of the burnt sienna on there so that it does blend in well. After those have dried, we're going to start right in the center of our ornament and we're going to go all the way around. Now try to get it as straight as you can. I struggled on this a little bit, but you can do this. Just kind of eyeball it from a distance and just look at it, but you want to try to get it as even around the ball as possible. And then you're just going to meet in the middle. You're not going to overlap, and we're just going to glue this in. And if you stretch it while you're doing it, it makes it a little bit easier. And then if you have to trim some off when you get to the other side because you've stretched it too much, that's perfectly fine. And then you're going to do the other 2 exactly the same way. Making bells with these, and then I cut out some vinyl. I put some stars. I'm going to put those on the very top, and I'm going to put the other bell shape on the bottom. And I've given you this in an SVG. You can download it and cut it out. But you want to put your stars, you can have 4 evenly spaced around the top, and then your bell part down at the bottom, you're going to put it between the stars on the bottom. So just turn it to the opposite side so you can make sure you get it straight. Put that one on, and then just between the two on both sides, add the next 2 stars. Just kind of try to take some time to really line this up good. This is what's going to finish these out. And for the bottom, you're going to put this right between the 2 stars with the big part of that sticker up. And just try to get them as straight as you can. You still have a little bit of time to maneuver these around before they completely stay on there. But just try to get it as straight as possible. And you're going to go between each star along the bottom all the way around. So you're going to have 4 of these as well. And I'm just using a matte black vinyl. And then that's how that should look after you get your vinyl put on there. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and put the tops back onto my bells. And then I'm going to have to paint them while they're on there because they did not paint up well with the spray paint. So just put them back on, and then we're going to paint these black. And then I'm going to lightly sponge them with that same burnt sienna. Okay, next I'm going to just add a little piece of jute for a hanger. I'm not going to hang mine. I'm actually going to put these in a little basket. But you can put a hanger on these if you want to hang them on your tree or something like that. But I just thought it kind of added to it. Next, I'm just using a little greenery from a little pine sprig I had. And I'm just going to run it right through the top of the ornament. And then to finish it out, I'm going to add 3 little pine cones to the opposite side. All right, I think those turned out super cute. Let me know what you think.
Come along out and play, what a wonderful day.
Okay, for this next project, we're going to be making the house, and you're going to need some cardboard, and you're going to need to download the pattern in the description below. It's this little template that you can cut out, and we're just going to cut this little house out of cardboard. Okay, and this is the house front and the house back, and you're just going to cut 2 of these. And I'm just going to line my ruler up against my pattern and then draw it onto my cardboard to cut it out. And once you get it all drawn out, you're just going to take a ruler and an X-Acto knife, and you're just going to cut it out. And just cut it out pretty straight. Keep your X-Acto knife straight up and down, otherwise you'll cut at a diagonal, and you don't want to do that. And you're going to cut 2 of these, and then the other 2 rectangles, those are going to be for the sides, and you're going to cut 2 of those out as well. And using a ruler is the easiest way to do this. That way you can make sure that you get your lines pretty straight. Once you got all your pieces cut out, I'm going to start assembling it. And I'm sorry I got out of the camera on this, but you're going to glue your 2 sides tall wise onto the back part of your house, and then you're going to glue the other house onto the front part of this, and you're going on the inside of the house. And again, I'm sorry I got out of camera on this. I had my camera off, but you're just gluing it right to the inside. These are just the sides, and they're going to go on the inside of that piece of cardboard. So now you have pretty much like a little box. Next, you want to trace out your box onto a piece of cardboard. We're going to make a bottom of this, and we're going to cut it to where it goes on the inside of the box, not on the outside of the box. So once you get it cut, you're going to have to probably trim it out a little bit till it sets inside the box, and then we're going to use some Jenga blocks to attach this. And then I'm just attaching my Jenga blocks to the bottom part here, but I would highly recommend doing it a different way. I did all mine on this way, and then trying to get it glued inside that box was a little bit hard. So I would put my Jenga blocks on the bottom part of the box, on the inside of the box, and then add your piece of cardboard over the top of that. I mean, this worked, but it was a little bit hard getting my glue gun down inside of the box to try to glue it in. So I definitely would put it inside the box first and then glue your piece of cardboard onto the bottom. And mine went in pretty snugly, so I really wasn't worried too much about having to glue it too much. But see, once you get into it, it's a little bit hard to get it glued. Next, before I put my roof on, I am taking some of the ceiling tile from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to cover my house with this. Now, if you don't have access to this, you can cover it with paper, you can cover it with contact paper. Anything that you have will work just fine. And I'm just going to use my pattern to cut it out just exactly like I did on the cardboard. Okay, next to attach it, I'm just going to start down at the very bottom of my box and I'm going to glue the bottom in first. That way you can make sure that you get it lined up really well. Then once I get that glued in, then I'm just going to glue the rest of it in. This really did dress it up, and you'll see at the end how pretty this does look. And then I'm going to cut 2 for the sides the same way, and then 1 for the back just like I'm doing for the front. And try to get your pattern, you know, like a real centered pattern on there. I'm coming right into the center of that little medallion or whatever you call it. I'm gluing that one on starting at the bottom as well, and then I'll glue the top part of it just like I did the front. Just kind of make sure that you are getting them lined up good. And when you cut your 2 sides, you want to cut it just a little bit over on both sides so it does cover up the cardboard. Because you did put that on the inside of that one on the side. So on the top and the bottom, you're good to cut it flush. But on the opposite sides, on the outside edges, cut it a little bit longer so it does go all the way to the edge. Just like that. And then just glue those 2 sides on just like you did the front ones. Once you got all your sides glued in, then you can start gluing it down a little bit closer down to the side. Just kind of make it flush because this is a raised pattern, so it does tend to lift. So you want to just take some time to make sure that you get it pretty flush. Next, for the roof, we're just going to cut a long strip, and we're just going to put this right over the top and then trim it out. And we're going to fold this in half. So you want to make sure that you just fold it completely in half, get your seam really good, and then we're just going to kind of trim that out a little bit and then glue that right on top of those pieces of cardboard. And you do want a little bit of overhang on the front and the back and the sides. And then you want to go ahead and remove the backing off of this. And I am going to trim it a little bit short because I only want it to overhang about a 1/2 inch on each side. And then I'm also going to cut the back part off, and I'm going to use a paper cutter to cut that straight. I just want enough to hang over the front about a 1/2 inch and the back about a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to take a paper cutter just to make sure that I do get my line straight. Next, I'm taking another piece exactly the same size, and I'm going to glue these together and then trim that out. This way, when you put your roof on, the overhang area will still have the same pattern as the top of the roof. And then we're just going to trim it out exactly the same size as the other piece. And then just finish gluing it all together. We're going to add a few Jingle blocks right at the top, and this is what's going to support our roof. So you're just going to do it just like that on both sides, and then on the opposite side as well. Just come right up against the edge of that cardboard. And then do the same thing on the back side. To attach our roof, we're just going to put a bead of glue right down the cardboard on both sides, and we're going to put a little bit on our little Jingle block too. You're just going to take your time on this part, really push it down there, hold it in place until it does dry really good, and then go ahead and get the opposite side and the other half of that roof on the front. You just want to make sure that it does push down so you have it flat against the face of the house. And then glue the other side and the other flap as well. To paint it, we're just going to take some white chalk paint and a sponge brush, and I'm going to paint the entire thing. I'm going to paint the whole thing white. The underneath on the eaves, the roof, the front, the back, all of it you're going to paint with this same white paint. And then I finally am going to switch over to a chalk paintbrush because to get into the little grooves, it was a little bit easier. Okay, then I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to start dabbing off the paint on the raised areas. This gives you a lot of time to do this because this is such a slick surface. The paint doesn't dry that fast, so you still have time to remove it off the raised areas. This just kind of gave it a little bit more texture, looked a little bit more clean looking to me. Next, I'm going to take a little bit of wood filler and I'm going to fill in all the little holes that are all the way around the edge. Now this will work just fine. This is really for wood, but it's working fine for this application. Just take some time to just get all your holes filled in so you have a nice clean finish on both sides and up around the roof area as well. And then that'll dry and it'll turn a cream color and you won't see it in purple anymore. And then we'll go back and we'll just touch up the paint right around those edges. After that's dried, I'm just going to come in with a sponge and I'm just going to kind of lightly sponge over those areas to cover up all that filler. That way you don't get too much paint on there, you just get enough just to cover up the filler. Next, I'm coming in with some antique wax. It's a black wax and I'm just using a sponge and I'm just going to rub it onto the raised areas. I just wanted it to be a little bit darker and I did that all over the entire house. Just really get those raised areas good. That'll really give it a little more definition in it. So I'm going to attach a wreath to the front. I just got this at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to wrap it around like this, and then I'm going to wrap it around several times and see how thick I want it. And then I'm going to open it back up and I'm going to twist it so it's a lot thicker and a lot fuller. So figure out, maybe go around it maybe 6 times and then open it back up, cut it open, and then just fold it in half. And then fold it in half again and then just start twisting it to get it twisted up and thicker. So I'm folding it up 1/2 right here, going to start twisting it, and then I'm going to fold it in half again and continue to twist it. And then I'm just going to shape it into the shape of a wreath. I'm just going to kind of twist some more wire in there to get it held together good. And it'll look like that. Next, I'm going to take a green and white checked ribbon and I'm just going to make a bow just to put on the top part of my wreath. Okay, next I'm going to glue my ribbon right to the top part of my wreath and then I'm going to turn my wreath over, put glue on the back, and then I'm just going to glue it straight to my house. I'm just taking a little piece of cellophane. I'm going to cover up my wreath because I decided to come back in with some black paint and kind of distress this. So I'm just covering it up so it doesn't get any paint on it. I'm just going to take some black paint and a chip brush, wipe most of it off onto my paper towel, and then just go all the way around the edges. And I would highly recommend doing this before you put your wreath on there. And I'm going to kind of go fast, but I'm going to show you that I am doing quite a bit of the black on here. And I decided to lightly brush over some of the raised areas of this as well. Next, I decided to add some doors. I'm just going to take some styrofoam. This is just a styrofoam plate, and I'm going to cut the shape of a door. So a long rectangle, and then we're going to distress this, and then we'll cut it in half and actually make a door out of it. Then to make this look like wood, I'm just taking a toothpick, and I'm just going to kind of run some lines down it, and I'm going to make them kind of wavy. You want to kind of be light on this. You don't want to push it down where you go right through it, and then I added a little knot right there too. So I'm just going to paint this with some burnt umber paint, and I'm going to use about 2 coats on this just to really get it covered up good, and then you can kind of see how the wood grain looks on here. Next, I used some of that same foam and I cut some little shapes that kind of look like hinges, and I'm just painting those black. And then I'm just gluing 2 to each side of my door. Now I am overhanging a little bit because they were a little bit big, and I'm going to trim them off. And then we're going to cut our door in half to make 2 doors so that they open in the center. And then I'm just going to cut those flush with that door right there. I'll touch up that with the black paint again. And then I'm going to cut my door straight in half. And then go ahead and touch up your paint. As for the door handles, I'm taking some little black brads. I'm just cutting the little bottom part of them off. And then I'm going to flatten the back of them so I can glue them onto my doors. I'm just going to put one on both sides, right side by side with each other. And then that's how that'll look once you close them. And just put a little dot of glue. You don't need a lot. When you're using foam, everything sticks to it pretty good, so you really don't have to overly glue that. But just make sure that your little doors are equal. So we're just going to glue these right to the front and kind of go up a little bit, like they have to step up into the door, like a threshold, and then just glue both sides on. To finish it out, I'm just cutting this little tag out that I printed. I'll give you the link for that in the description below. I'm just putting home for the holidays, and I'm going to run that right across the front part of my wreath. And I'm going to distress it here in a minute, so just cut a banner shape out of this. We're just going to distress it with some of the Tim Holtz walnut stain. I'm going around the edges and down the center of it, and then I'll pick it up here and I'll run it down the sides too to make it a little bit darker on the sides. After that dried, I'm just going to put a little glue on both sides of this banner and just run it right across the front. Now pull it tight so it doesn't droop. Glue one side first and then do the other side. And that was pretty much it. I think this turned out super cute. Let me know what you think in the comments.
A very good year, it's just you and me, chilling right under the tree.
For this next one, I'm going to use some of the plastic wine glasses from the Dollar Tree, and you can get these just about anywhere. Now I'm going to take some blue painter's tape, and I'm just going to tape around the bottom part of this about 1/2 inch up from the bottom of the glass. You just want to do this because we're going to sand this and you just don't want it to crack. So this will help it from cracking. So just put a little piece of tape all the way around the bottom, about like this. Okay, next I'm using an orbital sander, and I am wearing protective eyewear. You definitely want to do that. And we are just going to grind down the tip of this glass all the way down till we get to our blue tape. Now you can use a belt sander for this as well, but you are going to have to use something that sands pretty good. Otherwise, if you do it by hand, you'll be spending a lot of time doing that. But just push it into it as you're going, and it'll go all the way down to your tape pretty quickly. When you're finished, it's going to look about like that. And when you take your tape off, you have about that much. If you have any plastic shavings in it, just push them out with your fingertip. They'll pop right out. Next, I got these little plastic bowls from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to put a piece of blue tape on the bottom of them because we are going to drill a hole through the bottom of them, and this will help it from cracking. Okay, next I'm going to take my smallest drill bit. I'm going to drill a hole in the bottom of it, and then I'm going to graduate up. I'm going to graduate up probably about 4 different sizes of drill bits. You want to start small at first and then go up. And you're just going up enough to get 2 pieces of small jute run through this hole. Okay, next I'm going to take these outside. I'm going to spray paint the inside of these with a matte black paint. And you're just spray painting the inside of these right now, not the outside. Okay, next I'm going to paint the inside of these with a vintage white paint. This is just made by Folk Art. It's a matte colored paint. Next I'm going to take a chip brush and some black paint, and I'm going to lightly just go around this just to get a little bit more black inside of here. Okay, next I got these little brown bells from Hobby Lobby. They were actually silver. I just painted them brown. So you can just take them outside and spray paint them. And then I'm just going to tie a bell onto my jute, run it through my hole, and then I'm going to tie the knot at the top part where the bell still hangs down just a little bit so it still jingles. Just tie that in a knot right there, and you're going to do that for all of your glasses. And then after you get that tied off, make sure it hangs down there, and then just put a little bit of glue underneath it just to hold it in place. To make a handle for our bell, we're just going to run our jute. This is a 5mm jute. We're just going to run it through the top here, figure out how long we want it, and then we're going to cut 5 of these exactly the same length. I'm going to take a lighter and I'm going to get all the frayed edges off of this. Okay, next we're just going to tie a knot down at the bottom of our rope. And you might want to make yours just a little bit longer than this. Once I got this done and started tying my knot, it was a little bit smaller than I thought it was going to be. But just tie your knot down at the bottom, make sure it is secure really good. And then you're going to run it through that hole in that top part of that glass to make your bell handle. We're just making jingle bells is what we're making. Just run it right up through there, pull it up there, and then put a little bit of glue down at the bottom to hold it in place. And you're going to do that to all 5 of yours. And next, to join the top part of our glass and the bowl, we're just going to come right on top of that, put a bead of glue all the way around the outside of our glass, and we're going to center it over that little bowl. This will make a nice bell shape. Just kind of make sure it does stand up straight, and then do that for all of them. Next, you want to just wipe them down with some rubbing alcohol because we are going to take these outside and paint them. Next, we're going to take some painter's tape and we're going to cover up our jute because we are going to take these outside and paint them, and we don't want our handle to get painted. So just cover it up real good with some painter's tape and you'll be good to go. Take them outside, spray paint them with a black matte paint, and you want to get full coverage all over it, the bottom and the top both. Okay, next we're going to take that same vintage antique white paint and we are going to take a chip brush and just start painting these. Don't concentrate on one area, just kind of turn it as you're going. You still want to be able to see some of the black through it. And I'm going to go really fast on this so you can see how much I did cover these. I did cover these quite a bit. Just keep going till you almost don't see any of the black through it. And I did the bottom of the bell and the top part of the bell a little bit heavier than I did the center part. And then that's about how much I got on there. Next, I'm going to take some more jute and I'm going to start wrapping it around the bottom part of my bell at the base right there. I'm going to go all the way around until it meets in the center and covers up that little hole. Just keep going around till you get it all the way enough to go around that, and then we're going to cut that off, and then we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to take our lighter and get all the little frays off of it. And then we're just going to start at the side, go all the way around, keep going until you have that hole completely covered up. Just keep going, wrap it around, keep going until you get to the very top, and then start moving to the inside part. This will just help finish out our bell and make it look a little bit nicer. Just go all the way around till you don't see any more, and then we're going to just tuck that right inside of that hole. Next, I'm going to take some of the Tim Holtz ink and I'm going to start distressing my rope, and then I'm also going to rub it onto my bell as well. This just will give it a little bit more of a vintage look, and you can put however much of this you want to, or you don't even have to do this step if you don't like the rustic look. But it did give it a little bit of a more vintage look. To finish it off, I'm just going to take a little greenery sprig and I'm going to glue it to the side of each one of my little bells. And that was pretty much it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video today. I hope it gave you some inspiration. If you like these kind of videos, be sure and give me a like, subscribe, and ring that bell to be notified when I have a new video upload. Thank y'all so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And if nobody's told you today, you're awesome. See you next time. Thanks for watching.